All right, good morning, late morning, early afternoon. First, let me congratulate everybody for being here because it's Friday, and I was really worried when they scheduled an 11:30 on Friday. I'm like, no, really? Is anyone going to show up? And I'm very honored that you guys are still here hanging out. How did you guys enjoy Colin Powell yesterday? How many went to see him speak? Phenomenal, phenomenal, great, good. Well, welcome to Introduction to Programmable User Interfaces. And we're having some, whoa, what was that? We are going to be doing some hands-on activities today, and also known as Visualforce, also known as Force.com pages. My name is Leah McGowan-Hare. I am a certified Salesforce developer as well as a technical instructor with Salesforce. Also along with me, I have Mark Custer from France, who is also our Visualforce Apex expert. And also, by a show of hands, helpers. So these are our helpers, and oh good, Will is here, another Visualforce expert. They will be here to help you when we log in and when we get to the hands-on activities, okay? So please, if you have issues, keep your hands up until someone can come over and help you. All right, so without further ado, let us get started. Just a word from our legal team. Please know that there may be some forward-looking statements in this presentation. However, all of your purchasing configuration decisions should be based off of the edition that you have purchased. So before we get started into the details and really, getting hands-on, what I'd like to do is get everybody logged into your org. So you should have two pieces of paper. You should have an activity guide or exercise guide, as well as all the slides that I'm presenting are also in another handout. Okay? So two guides. What I'd like for you to do right now is take your guide with the slides in them, turn to this slide, because we're going to take this slide down and we're going to all log in together. So what you need to do is go to a browser and come to the Salesforce.com website, and you're going to log in here, and your login is admin at DF for Dreamforce 09 intro INTRO PUI, Programmable User Interfaces. And then there are two? Oh, two, that's right, because this is the second session. Thank you. Two. So PU2, Programmable User Interfaces 2. And then you're going to put in, each person has a unique 3-digit number on the upper right-hand side of your monitor. That's going to be your number. Ours is 00. Please don't log into ours. Ours is 000. Each person has a number there. And then .com. And then your password is going to be the word password, all lowercase, and the number 1. Password, all lowercase, and the number 1. And then go ahead and click login. If you are not able to log in or you're having trouble, please raise your hands. Okay. Can I get a helper up here to help this lady here? Also, I haven't made this announcement in other classes because we were so full, but because it looks like there's one person per computer, please know these orgs you'll have for 2 weeks afterward. So you may want to write down the number because you can go back and practice. Oh, and please make sure you have the right slides. This is the wrong one. Oh. Make sure you don't have creating wizards with programmable user interfaces. This is not that session. This is intro to programmable user interfaces. If you don't have the right handout, please keep your hands up, and Sophie, our lovely assistant, will help you get the right documentation. Okay. All right, great. I've got everybody logged in. We'll jump back to the PowerPoint. Marc. Whenever I speak to Mark, I have to say it in my French accent. Marc. Thank you. So now, what are we going to be talking about today? We're going to talk about Visualforce pages. We're then going to talk about Visualforce. We're going to have two hands-on activities. One, hello world, and the other one we're going to be creating a PDF. And then we'll talk about further studies, sort of additional resources for you, and any Q&A. So Visualforce, how many people are familiar with Visualforce? Okay, great. Mark, you don't count. Visualforce, how many people are familiar with page layouts? The regular page. Okay, great. So user interfaces, your page layout, when you created that page layout, you really didn't create it. You created an object, and that object generated your page layout, right? So you really didn't have sort of control over that interface. It was given to you, inherited. You could change the order of the fields. You could add new sections. You could add page field properties, right? What Visualforce is going to allow you to do is to further customize that user interface, create a unique user interface that runs on multiple devices. So it gives you far more control over the user interface as well as the behavior of that page. And when I say behavior, I mean when you click on a button, something happens. When you click on a link, you go somewhere. All of that you can have control over via Visualforce. So we're talking more now in the programmatic framework of creating applications. With Visualforce, there are three main elements to Visualforce. One are the pages. Pages are created in a marked up language very similar to that of HTML. How many people have coded in HTML? Okay, great. This is going to seem very familiar to you. Do not be discouraged if you have not. We provide the code for you. But please know, if you have worked in HTML, it's going to be second nature to you. Also, there are components. Now, these components are very powerful little elements. They are delivered elements, UI elements, and there's over, 70 or so elements that we deliver in our standard application available to you. They allow you to create these Visualforce pages with, 4 lines of code, very small amount of code. And it generates, because Visualforce executes on the server, and then the HTML is then rendered to the browser, the amount of HTML that is rendered behind those components, very powerful. You're going to see this. So components, you'll also hear being referred to as Visualforce tags. We'll be looking at some of those. And then we have controllers. Controllers encapsulate your business logic. Controllers control how you flow, your navigation flow in your application. There are 3 types of controllers. You have a standard controller, you have a custom controller, and then there are custom extensions. Those can accompany either a standard or custom controller. We will be working with a standard controller today. All right, so what can you include inside of a Visualforce page? Well, Visualforce page, because it's very much like HTML, you can include anything that can be done in HTML. That includes JavaScript, that includes Flash, that includes HTML. Also unique to Visualforce, you have the Visualforce tags, these Visualforce components that we're going to look at. And something else called force.com expressions. All right, we'll look at that, and that's going to be binding. If any one thing you're going to walk away with knowing today, it's going to be binding, and I will make sure of it. All right, so you'll see that. Those are the items that you can include inside the Visualforce page. So here's a small snippet of Visualforce. So if you look at this first line of code, it says apex:"page." It has an open bracket, and it says apex:"page." Apex is our namespace. All of our components begin with apex:. Okay? You can create custom components, and they would start with a C. But for all of our delivered components, they start with apex. That is our namespace. Then is the component name, and in this case, we're looking at the component name page. For each component, there are attributes. You can use attributes, or you can choose not to use attributes. But what attributes allow you to do is to further customize the behavior of that component. So if we look at this one, it says apex:"page." The attribute we're using is title. And it says title equals my page. I could have chosen not to use title at all. Okay? So there are some attributes that you have to use. There are some that you don't. And I'll show you a library where you can have as a reference to be able to see what are the attributes for all of the components. Also, when you're commenting in Visualforce, you can comment just as you do in HTML. Okay? And they give you an example of this. Also, the first opening tag, my apex colon page, that first line, that is what we call an opening tag. All Visualforce pages start with apex colon page. Then at the bottom, I have a closing tag. How do I know that's a closing tag? That's right. I know you weren't chopping me, but you were saying slash. The slash in the front. It's the slash in the front. That indicates a closing tag. There's also something called a self-contained tag. And if you look at the example with P in it, the plain HTML, that is a self-contained tag. Whenever you see a slash at the end, you're looking at a self-contained tag, meaning it is the opening and the closing tag all in one. Okay? So that's tag 101 really quickly. So now, this is the part that we're going to talk about here, binding. Remember I said earlier, you can have these force.com expressions inside of your Visualforce page. What you're doing is you're binding, and you're going to either bind of one of three items. You'll be doing data binding, you'll do action binding, or you'll do component binding. And whenever you see the syntax of curly bracket bang, and when I say bang, I mean the exclamation mark, curly bracket bang, you are doing some form of binding. Okay? Remember that. Curly bracket bang binding. In this case, they're showing you data binding. Data binding is going to bring in data that's identified by your controller for that page. Action binding, you're going to have access to the actions or the methods identified by your controller. And then component binding basically allows you to use other portions of your Visualforce page. We will talk solely about action binding and data binding, but primarily data binding. Okay? So this is a great slide. This is one of my favorite slides. This is one of my favorite slides. So because there's a lot going on here, but it's pretty powerful because it's very visual as well. So if we look at the part in the blue, and it says apex colon input field. So apex colon is my namespace. Just go with me. Yup, okay. And then input field is my component, right? And then I have an attribute I'm using called value. Value equals, quote, curly bracket bang. What am I doing? Binding, exactly. I'm doing binding. I'm doing some data binding. I'm binding with contact dot salutation. So I'm using the contact object and the salutation field. So what I'm saying is I want you to bring the data in from this field. But not only am I bringing in the data, this is how smart these little components are. When it reads this line, it renders not just the data of Mr., it also shows that field as a drop-down. It also brings in the label. Just by saying input field equals value, and I do some binding with the Salesforce field. And if you notice, the arrow is two-headed, right? It goes both ways. Why? Because if the user changes Mr. to Mrs. or Ms. or Doctor or whatever you want to call, it will then take that information and put it back into the field on that object. So it goes both ways. Very powerful. You know, my HTML developers, you know, that would have been way more than one line of code to do all of that. Okay? So all that one line of code renders it. Why? Because the power behind the component, it can read in the metadata behind that field. So not only do I know the data in the field, I know the metadata. I know that this is a pick list, therefore I show it as a drop-down. I know the label name, so I put the label there. And, for example, if you look at the last name, has the red bar. Why is it red? Required, right? And it uses the same Visualforce input field, and it knows that because it has access to the metadata. And the metadata says this field is required, so it puts the red bar there. Okay? Oh, we're going to have Q&A at the end, but if you want to hold off to it, go ahead.
The requirement is going to come from the field definition, not from any page layout.
No, you're absolutely right, bingo, because you can make them required in both, but it would come from the field level. And if you made it at the page level, you don't get a red bar. That only happens when you make it at the field level. Okay. All right. So how do we incorporate these Visualforce pages inside of our application? Because when we are creating these pages in development mode, they are little islands by themselves. They're not part of the application, right? We need to hook these pages into the application. So there's several ways. You can override an existing page layout. You can create a push button. When you click on it, it brings you to a Visualforce page. You can click on a link, and it will bring you to a Visualforce page. One of my favorites, you can, get this, embed a Visualforce page into a page layout. Am I the only one that gets that? I mean, that is big. Because so much comes with the page layout, and me having to recreate that, not that I can't, you know, but I don't have to. I can just put my Visualforce page right inside the page layout. I think that's pretty hot. You think about that and get back to me. But I think it's pretty hot. Okay? So that is one of the ways that you can get Visualforce pages incorporated into your application. And I just wanted to drive this point home a little bit more, because when we are creating these, when we do our hands-on activities, we're going to have to hard code that 15-digit ID into the URL, because it is by itself and it's not being passed via the URL, the 15-digit, right, until we incorporate it into the application. All right? Okay, so how do we create these? We have several editors. Well, it's not several. You can create them in the Force.com IDE. How many people have worked in the IDE? Okay, so you can do it there. It's not really, and you guys know, Eclipse is not really meant for web development, because you can't see the code and preview the page. Our inline editor allows you to see the code as well as preview the page. So that's my preference. Also, inside of, oh, look at that. Are we okay? See, that's how powerful Visualforce is. Just blew it up, right? Here, what it also we have inside of our inline editor is that you have autocomplete. It's almost like Visualforce writing itself. Okay, maybe it's not that good, but I'm saying there's less keystrokes, right? You'll see that. You can type in, and you'll get a list of the attributes for that component, or you'll get a list of all the components available to you, and we'll look at that. Okay? So, what I need you to do, I need you to take out your exercise guide, because we're going to get straight into it. We have our first activity, which is going to be creating a Visualforce Hello World page. And I'm on page number 1 of your activity guide. So you want to come into your browser, and there's a couple of things. In order to get that inline editor, we have to be in development mode. We won't have it right now, so we're going to go and set those settings. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm on page 1, step number 1. We're going to enable the development mode. For those in the back, if it's difficult for you to see this, please know I'm following all of the activity guide. So go ahead and click on Setup, and you're going to get this little screen with critical updates. Just say, okay, I'll read it later. And then you're going to click on My Personal Information. Okay. And then click on Personal Information again. So there's two things I want you to do here. First of all, I want you to click Edit. And then I'd like for you to change your first name here. Change your name to your name, your nickname, the name you wish you had, the name you wish, whatever. Just change the name. Also, while we're here, I suggest to you to change the email address if you're going to use this org at a later point in time. Because once again, you'll have access to this org for 2 weeks. So change the email address to your own email address. Now, I also want you to check the checkbox Development Mode. It's over on your right-hand side. There's a checkbox called Development Mode. Okay. Click on that. So those are the 3 things we did. We changed your name, we put the email address in, and you check Development Mode. And then once you have completed that, go ahead and click Save. Okay. So now we're ready to start. So now what I'd like for you to do, click on the home. Yes. You need help with that one? It's going to allow you to use the inline editor, else you will not have access to the inline editor to create Visualforce. You couldn't do it in production environment. You wouldn't be able to turn that on there. Is that correct? Can you turn on development mode in production? You can. Oh, you wouldn't want to leave it on for your users, and you'll see why. It also takes a hit on the performance. It takes a hit. Is it per user? Yes. But I wouldn't recommend production. You'll have a hit on performance. Okay, so go ahead and click on the Home tab. I want you to click on the Home tab. And I do this for a couple of reasons. One, just to be out of where we were, and also to shorten the URL. Okay? So now, in the URL, what I'd like for you to do, I want you to take your mouse, and at the end of where it says salesforce.com/, after that / erase everything, and I want you to type, and I'm on step number 2, page 1, Apex / hello world, or how do we say it in French?
Bonjour tout le monde.
Bonjour tout le monde. That's your other choice. Or salbona, or whatever. We're going to be international. Hello world. Or hola mundo de mundo. I could go on in different languages. I can make up a language too. All right, so / hello world. Now, once you do that, go ahead and hit enter. Okay? And you're going to get something like this that looks like an error. If you did it right. I know, real user friendly. Okay? So what it's saying is that this Visualforce page does not exist, and we want to create it. So go ahead and click on the Create Page Hello World. And it's churning, and it's churning. And if you're having problems, please raise your hand because we can get a helper to you. So look at that. You have created a Visualforce page. You should have at the top that says, he said, cool, you know what, that's it. Thank you for coming to class. We're done. No. That we did create a Visualforce page. We generated it. Okay? Not very exciting, but we did. It's a start. But on the lower left-hand corner, there's a page editor, and I'd like for you to click on that. It says Page Editor. This is the code behind your Visualforce page. And if you see, the first tag is Apex:page. That is your first opening tag there, and then it has a closing tag. What I want you to do is erase everything in between the opening tag and the closing tag. So keep your Apex:page, opening tag and closing tag, and I'm on page 1, step 2, letter D. And I would like for you to type exactly as it has there, open bracket, lowercase b, close bracket, hello world. We should have you type it in French. Hello world. Good. We're going to, bonjour. Bonjour. Toast. This is why they kicked me out of it. I said bonjour or toast. I don't think I said it right, but you get the point. Or you write hello world, okay? Look at that. You're learning French, too. Isn't this great? French and Visualforce. So what do I have going on here? I have an opening tag that's HTML, B, and B just means bold. When I hit save, when Mark hits save, it's going to change your Visualforce page. And now it just says bonjour all, okay? So you're like, okay, Leah, still not that exciting. Okay, baby steps, stay with me. So what have we done? We've embedded HTML inside of our Visualforce. What is cool is you can put any kind of HTML in there, all right? So let's take it up a notch. We're going to turn the page onto page 2, step 3. Oh, we're going to do something really fun here. So here, what I'd like you to do is after your bonjour or your hello, I want you to put a curly bracket, bang, what are we doing? Binding, curly bracket, bang, $user dot first name, curly bracket, space, and another bang. Okay. So what do I have here? I have curly bracket, bang, which is binding. Then I have my $user, which, just a side note, $, whenever you see that, it's a global variable. So if you want to see a list of global variables, go to the developerforce.com, search on them. They'll give you a list of the global variables. But this is the user object. It's going to give you the current user's first name, dot first name, curly bracket, and then I have another bang. What's that last bang doing? That's right, excitement, because we are excited. So now you're going to hit save. And what's going to happen? Bonjour, Leah. Oh, is it my name? You put my name?
Yeah,
Oh,
I
you're
put you
so
in it.
sweet. So
too.
he put Leah. He should have put Mark. So bonjour, Leah. So what did we just do? We did binding. We pulled in data from our Salesforce org, okay? Yes, it's, you know, it's global data, whatever. That's pretty straightforward. We're going to make it more interesting. But what I want to show you is how you can just throw in binding anywhere in the middle of your Visualforce page. That simple, that straightforward. Okay, so now let's take it up one more notch. So if you look at step number 4, oh, Mark, you think they're ready for this? 4?
Yeah.
Nope. Okay, Mark said, let's do it. So apex page. Now, Mark, do this. Yes. He did a space. No, do space after that. Look at this. Soon as he does a space, you get a list of the attributes for that component. These are all of the available attributes for the page component. The one we're interested in is standard. So if he just starts typing ST, it would auto-populate, or he can just select it, whichever. But it does, this is the autocomplete feature of our inline editor. So I want my standard controller to equal position _ C. Now let me tell you what is position _ C. Position is an object. It captures all of the positions that we have for this recruiting application. Why does it have _ C? Because it's custom, right? It's a custom object. This is not a standard object, which can be a little confusing because it's called standard controller, but your standard controller can either be a custom object or a standard object, okay? So very cool. We've just enlisted a standard controller. We are also going to, we're going to put in some breaks. Want to put in some breaks, Mark, after the B's and BRs. What this will do is just allow another space. It's just going to create a couple of spaces. That's just HTML. And those BR/ are self-contained tags. After that, he's going to type in open bracket, apex, and look at this. As soon as he starts typing apex, he's getting a list of all of the components, right? Auto-completion working again. So the one we're interested in is apex : detail, and then the / at the end, another self-contained tag. So it's all here, step number 4, page 2, letter A. We have 4 lines of code, okay? So now, if we want to see the magic happen, don't do it yet. Because I'm going to tell you, don't blink. Something happens, but if you blink, you'll miss it, all right? So we're going to click Save. Anybody see it? You did? What was it? It switched tabs. I actually put her there. I told you. It switched tabs. It went from the Home tab to the Positions tab. Why did it do that? Because I identified a controller. I identified the position as my controller. So now what is in control is the position. But what am I not seeing? I'm not seeing any data. And why? Because remember I told you, this Visualforce page is an island by itself. We're not populating it with any data. Had it been embedded in an application, I would have sent it that 15-digit ID, and it would have took that ID and populated the data. So now we're going to have to sort of hard code that just for testing purposes to see what this 4-line of code actually does. So we want to go out and grab a 15-digit ID. The way you want to do this is go up to the Positions tab, right-click on it, select Open in New Tab, and we do that so we don't lose our place where we're at. And then we're here at the Positions. You want to click on the Go button. Click on the Go. And Mark's going to select his favorite position. And what's your favorite position, Mark? Assistant to the director. Okay. So he's going to select the assistant to director. You choose whichever one you want. And then you want to go ahead and grab in the URL that 15-digit ID, which comes after the equal sign, right? After the slash. So the 15-digit ID. So highlight that, copy that. Okay? So now that we have that copied, we're going to go back to our Visualforce tab. So we're back here. Now I want you to go up to the URL and put in $, ID equals, and then paste that 15-digit ID. And then hit Enter. and get ready to be wowed. Bam. Okay? This 4 lines of code created this page. This 4 lines. Now, once again, my HTML people, if I wanted to do this, well, if you want to see the HTML behind it, you could right-click and say View Source, and it would show you the code that's been generated. So this is being executed on the server and then rendering the HTML that we're seeing here. Okay? We basically recreated a Salesforce page. Now, this is powerful because now we have the ability to customize it the way we want to. So, for example, Mark, can you scroll to the bottom and show all of the related lists?
Yes.
So here we have all of these related lists. We have interviews, job applications, job postings, blah, blah, salary, all of these things. I'm not interested in all of those showing up. So I can do something to turn off those related lists. And I can do so using an attribute of that detail tag. And it's here on page 2 still, number 5, activity number 5, step number 5. So if Mark goes down to the detail tag and does a space, he's getting all of the attributes available for that component, the detail component. The one I'm interested in here is the related list. So he's going to choose the related list one. And then if he does a space inside of the quotes, oh, it didn't show up, the true, there we go. It will show you your options are either true or false. And I want to turn them all off. So you're going to select false. Okay? So what am I doing? I'm saying I want all of the related lists for this detail page to be turned off. And then if he hits save, and I scroll to the bottom, all of my related lists are gone. Okay? But now, because I'm so indecisive, I've changed my mind. I do want some related lists. However, I only want 2 related lists. I want the job applications, and I want the interviewers. So I'm on page 2, and step number 5, it says I'm going to add a new component called related list. So underneath detail, I'm going to type in open bracket apex colon related list. As soon as it starts the auto completion, right? And here, the attribute I'm interested in is the list equals, quote, job underscore applications underscore underscore R. Now get that, underscore underscore R. I want relations. I want the relationships. I don't want the C because that would have returned the 15-digit ID. I'm not interested in that. And actually, it would have gave you an error here. Okay? So here, I'm getting the job applications relationships because it is related to the positions object. I also want the interviews.
Okay.
So I can either, watch this, he's going to cut and paste. Oh, no, he's going to type it in. Good. I was going to teach cut and paste. I'm always cutting and pasting. Equal list, and he's going to do interviewers underscore underscore R. Now, this also brings up a good point because you cannot save syntactically incorrect Visualforce code. Don't be fooled when people tell you, oh, we're not going to let you save bad code. I've seen syntactically correct code, but it was still bad code. So we won't let you save syntactically incorrect code. It won't let you do that. And the error messages they give you are quite user-friendly, and they can help you decipher what the error is. All right, so what have we done? We're going to hit save, and if I look at the bottom, if it's working right, and which it is, I now see my 2 related lists, job applications and interviews. Okay? Great. Good stuff. So now we want to take it up a notch. So just sort of a recap. We've used a standard controller. We used a detail tag. We used a related list tag. We also did some binding. Okay? But we're really going to take it up a notch. So if you go ahead and look on page 3, step number 6. Now, I could be really mean and make you type in all of this code, but I'm not. It's Friday. We have a file on your desktop. So if you go to your desktop, there's a folder on your desktop called, where's the folder called? I think it's Programmable, Intro to Programmable User Interfaces.
1 hour hot? Or
Sorry? Hands-on, thank you, hands-on. Hands-on introduction to programmable user interface. And inside of that, there's a notepad called DF09 Introduction, Hands-on Introduction to Programmable User Interface. So you want to open up this file. Wow, and that's some code for you. There's a whole bunch of code. We want step number 6. You want to cut and paste the code under step number 6. Please don't copy step 6 and paste it in there. You want everything underneath step 6. Copy that code. If you do, you won't be able to save it. That's right. So copy that code and paste it in here. So let's talk about the code. Well, let's paste the code in, and then I want you to save the code. And watch your page get transformed. Bam. Paste the code, hit save. If you're having problems, please raise your hand. We can get someone to help you. I got someone back here. All right, good. So save. So what did we just do? We created this lovely box at the top of your page. Don't hit the update button there yet. I don't want you to do that yet, okay? Stick with me. I want you to look at this. So we have a title. There's a field there, title. There's another field called status or status. I don't know how to say it in French. And then there's a button called update. Let's look at the code behind this. So Mark's going to open that up a little bit, and we're going to look at the code behind this. So we have in here our standard controller. We understand that. We have our hello. We got that. Then we have our apex : form. We're using the form tag. Whenever you're going to be using fields where the users are going to be inputting data, they're going to have to be within the form tag. After the form tag, we have apex : page block. There's a series of page block components. Page block section, page block section item. There's a ton of them. We're looking at the page block. And that's creating a block on the page. Then after the page block, we have a page block section, and we give it a title called update position. That is what renders what you see up there, what Mark is highlighting. Okay? So that piece of code renders that update position. After that, we have apex : input field, and then the value equals, quote, curly bracket bang, and that's doing what? Binding, okay? Binding. And what am I binding with? The position object. And I'm getting the field name from the position object. But what's interesting is, when it pulls it in, what is the label for that field? We know the name of the field is called name. What's the label? Title, right? Why? Because you see it up there. It pulls in title. The next one, we're bringing in status, right? So we have position _ C dot status _ C. Why? Because this is a custom field as well. Name was a standard field. So here it renders this field as a drop-down, and if Mark clicks on that drop-down, the status drop-down, it also brought in all of the values for that field. Just by doing that binding, it reads the metadata, it knows all of the options, it renders it as a drop-down, and it puts the label. Okay? I get impressed by this stuff. Okay? So then, because I guess I've seen it in HTML and it's a lot of work. And then, okay, this gets even cool. If that didn't blow you away, get ready now. The next line, apex : command button. We're creating a button. And this button is called update, right? But I'm doing another level of binding. I have action equals curly bracket bang. What kind of binding am I doing here? Action binding. I'm not binding with data, I'm binding with an action. Where did I get this action? From my standard controller. Okay? So when they click on update, it's going to act like save. We're going to test it. So now we have some action binding. Then I close out my page block section, I close out my page block, and I close out my form. And then the rest of the stuff we've already done. Okay? So now we saved it, but does it work? I don't know. Let's see. So let's go to the title. Mark, let's go to the title. Change it to your favorite position in the world, whatever that is. Mark. Keep it clean. Retired, okay. Retired sand keeper on the beach. I like that. Retired assistant. And then change the status. Okay. And now, can you just shrink the code a little bit, Mark? Thanks. And then he's going to click on the update. Go ahead and click on your update. So look, my title has changed. My status has changed. But my Visualforce page is gone. Okay? Why? Because the standard controller took over. We don't have that page embedded in the application. So we need to go and embed that page into the application. Okay? So we're still going to see it. We're not done. So let's jump to page 3. Steps. We're still on 6. Step letter C. Step letter C, yeah. 6C. So now we want to take this Visualforce page we created and incorporate it into our application. So go ahead and click on Setup, Create, Objects, and you want to go to the Position object. So Setup, Create, Objects, Position. Okay. So here, if you scroll down, there's a lot of different things at the object level, but the one we're interested in are the standard buttons and links. Standard buttons and links area. We want to override the view. So we're going to click on Override that's next to the view, and when you click on that, it says, okay, what do you want to override? We want to choose a Visualforce page. So click on the radio button that says Visualforce. And when you click on the drop down, you get a choice of one Visualforce page. And what's happening is you're only going to get a choice of the Visualforce page with the controller exactly of positions. Okay? So go ahead and select Hello World. And if we were good developers, we would put in comments. But today we're going to be bad developers. So click Save. All right? So now we want to see if it actually works. So let's go out to the Positions tab. Go ahead and either, if you don't see anything recently, then click on Go or grab whatever record is out there and select it. And okay, so now we see our Visualforce page. We navigated directly there. Let's see if this little page block still works. Go ahead and change the title of your position and the status. So make it whatever you want it to be. Okay, Mark, you're hired. Thanks. And you make sure that's a closed. That status is closed because you have filled it, my friend. Sorry, Will. And then you're going to click on Update, and let's see what happens. And the moment you click Update, the title should have changed, and your status has changed. How many did it work? Okay, you guys are now official Visualforce developers. How does it feel? Okay? That's great. It is good stuff. This was all done in what? Several lines of code. Okay? So this is one way of creating this Visualforce page using page block. You want to research that. Oh, and let me show that while we're here, the content reference. One of the things you want to make sure you do when you're writing Visualforce is understand your resources. One of the best resources that I use when I'm writing it or the content reference tab. If you click on that, it pulls up, component reference. It's going to give you a list of all of the delivered components and custom components and all of the attributes for those components. And if you click on the usage tab for it, like here, okay, pick page. So we're looking at the page component. Here are all of my attributes. It will also tell you the type of attribute. It will also tell you if that attribute is required or not and what the attribute does. And then the usage gives you an example of code, of it being used in code. Okay. So definitely want to know the component reference library. The way you can get to it is here from the editor. You also want to download the Visualforce Developer's Guide from the developerforce.com site under the technical library. Get the Winter 10 version. That's out there as well. Okay? So are we ready to do some more Visualforce? Yeah? No? Maybe? Yeah? Yeah? All right. All right. Yeah! Visualforce. Visualforce. Okay. So let's do exercise 2. And here's the thing. Exercise 2, you're not creating a page. The page is created, but we're going to modify it. We're going to modify it and see the use of another attribute. So let us do this. In your org, you have an Offers tab. I'd like for you to click on the Offers tab. And then click on Go. Okay. And here, there's one record out there. I'd like for you to select that record. So what are we looking at? We're looking at an offer that's being presented to a candidate. There's also a button that says Generate PDF. Go ahead and click on the Generate PDF button. And what's happening is, this is a Visualforce page. It's not generating a PDF. It's just generating a Visualforce page. So it's not true in the sense of what the button says. So we want to modify this Visualforce code so it generates a PDF. So the way in which you do this is, in order for it to generate as a PDF, we're going to add the attribute to the page component called Render As. And it's here on page 4, step number 2. So what he's going to do, he can select Render As and put in there PDF. Okay. And now hit Save once you do that. With the simple attribute, it changed it to a PDF. Okay? Make sure you hit Save. So I want to test it full on out. Because what I want you to do is go back to your org. Go back, click on the Offers. We're just going to start all over from Offers tab. Just click on the Offers. We're going to come back into the record. We're just going to prove that we haven't rigged anything, right? Click on the Offers tab. And then we're going to click on the Offers record again. And now we're going to click on Generate PDF. And this time, we should get a PDF. And we do. Let me point out something, too, here I think is really cool. Okay, so everybody got the PDF? Cool. What I'd like for you to do, I just want you to look at this. Can you open up? I want to show the traversing, how we go from offer to candidate. So in the code, something else I just want to point out, and it may be a little hard here, and when we get to the, yeah, that one's good, that one's good. So can you try to blow it up a little bit? Yeah, it's kind of hard. So here, what we've done, for each Visualforce page, you can only have one controller. Okay? The controller for this one is the positions object. But I'm pulling in information from the candidate object. Okay? So if I go down, how have I done that? I'm sorry, the controller is the offer object, the offer object. So I'm pulling in information from the candidate object. In here, I'm traversing through relationships using the dot notation. So I start with the offers object. I do offers underscore underscore C dot job underscore applications underscore underscore R. Why R? Because I want the relations. I don't want anything off the job applications. I want the relationship there. And then that gives me all of the fields off job applications as well as all the relationships off job applications. So I choose, the next thing I want is the candidate relationship. So I'm going up another level. I'm going to the candidates. So I have candidate underscore underscore R. Now that I'm at the candidate relationship, I have access to all of the fields on the candidate object as well as any relationships that exist there. But this is where I want to stop because the only thing I want from there is the name, the first name, or the street, or the address. So here I'm grabbing all of the different information of the candidate. The walk away, the key point I want you to note here is how you traverse through object relationships to bring in data using the dot notation syntax. So it's very important that when you are creating Visualforce, you understand the relationships. Whether it's via an ERD diagram, if you're so lucky to have one, but you definitely want to know relationships, because that will tell you what kind of access you have. Okay? All right, that was just something I wanted to point out. But that closes out for the activities. I'm going to jump back to the PowerPoint. Mark, you're such an awesome driver. Don't tell Will I said that. All right. So we've done both of these. Now, this is a great slide I want you to remember and keep as a resource. What this is saying is, it's going to help guide you when you're trying to decide what to do. If you want a standard look and feel page with standard behavior, and we're talking Salesforce standard here, then all you have to do is create your regular page layout. No coding, no Visualforce, you're good. Okay? It's quick and it's easy. If you want a standard behavior, but you want custom look and feel, you want to customize that page, you're going to do exactly what we did. You're going to create a Visualforce page with a standard controller. Okay? We just used the controller behind the object. We didn't have to code any Apex. It was all good. If you want custom behavior, but standard look and feel, which means I like the page layout, but there might be some extra things I want the page to do, you're going to look at using some form of Apex, whether it's a trigger with a class. Okay? You still don't need Visualforce for that. If you want to go full on out, you want, full bling on your page, you want a custom behavior, custom look and feel, then you're going to have to do some. It requires a different skill set. You're going to create a Visualforce page, and you're going to use a custom controller or a custom extension. Either way, you're going to have to write some Apex code along with that. Okay? So this is a great guide in understanding where I need to look, where do I need to begin. So now, if the Visualforce documentation, I told you where you could find it. If you want more information, if you want to take classes on Visualforce, if you're interested in that, where's my TAE? He's in the background. Definitely see him. We have a lot of good information. I've seen some of you guys in class before. I'd love to see you again. There's a lot of good information, and I think we're giving discounts out if you sign up today. Also, you want to get certified. If you know this stuff, if you do this stuff, get certified. It's worth it. All right? Definitely get certified. Talk to us about getting certified as well. And your next steps, you want to go ahead and talk to the TAE. You want to find out the learning paths. You want to do some more training. Talk to us. We can answer any of those questions. So now we're going to open up to Q&A. I got my experts here. Oh, no?
The survey.
Oh, survey. I always forget that. Thank you. So what I'd like for you to do now is go back to your org. So go back to your org where we just created all those wonderful Visualforce pages. Go to the Home tab. On the Home tab. And on the, Leah's assistant, I just crack up when I see that. So now there's going to be a link called Course Survey on the left-hand side. And you want to click on that. And then you want to click on the drop-down. And it should be, is it going to be a 2 as well? Or no?
No.
No, okay. Introduction to Programmable User Interface. You want to select that one. Introduction to Programmable User Interface. Select that guy. And then you can complete it. While we're completing it, you want to do some Q&A? We've got a question here.
I'm bringing a mic around to people that have questions.
I'm sorry? Oh, you got the mic? I got a gentleman right here. Oh, you got one right there. Oh, sorry.
How you doing? Quick question. The Visualforce, I noticed it was at the very top. Are there restrictions on where it can be? Can you embed it within the page, or does it have to be on the very top?
You mean, okay, so within like a page layout?
Yeah,
if I choose, it's where you put that section. You're going to drag a section wherever you put it, Visualforce page. Very cool.
And I noticed you had a drop down that came up there. Could you also have dependent pick lists up there, or is that not supported?
Well, dependent pick list, that's a whole separate. You mean coded within Visualforce?
Yeah. You
would do that on the page layout with the dependent pick list. I mean,
okay.
For a Visualforce, you wouldn't do that unless it's
a
controller. You would be recreating logic you could do declaratively, but you could through a controller. Wouldn't encourage that one. One here and one here.
Two questions, actually. One, I noticed in the PDF rendering you were able to generate style sheets for the PDF. Mm-hmm. Are those available publicly, or were they created for...
They were in the resource. Were they in our static resource library? So if you load them into your static resource, you can pull them out. Did you see the $ resource?
Yep.
That's going to access anything that's in your resource library.
Gotcha. So
you can put them there.
Okay. The second one is the page layouts. When you're doing the Visualforce, is it inherited based on the user profile? Or when you're pulling that stuff in?
That is off the user profile.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Right here, this gentleman. Come stand up, Mark, because you can answer
So I think
questions.
this is a pretty basic question, but so am I correct in understanding that Visualforce is essentially a subset of Apex? So that's why it's called out with the Apex tags?
I'm going to let Mark answer. Go ahead, Mark. You want to answer?
I won't say it's a subset. I would better say it's a graphical language. And Apex is the business language. It's very related to different model. Like one is the controller, VMC model. You know the VMC model? So I would say the controller is purely Apex, and Visualforce has nothing to do with changing the behavior. Like here, we just display the information in a different way, but we didn't change any process of saving, editing. We changed what we want. So it's a pure MVC model, and Visualforce is really just the view. So it's not a subset. It's really like two different entities.
And that name is just the namespace. Apex has nothing to do with the Apex code. I know it can be a little confusing. It was branded that way before the pages came out, and then they changed the name, but they kept the namespace. One more question? Oh, yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
About the PDF generation, I guess, it generated the PDF based on some session variable or something with the user ID in it. Is there a way to pass like a parameterized, if you wanted to like loop through that, do a list where you could pass a set of IDs into it? Like how would you set a parameter in there to load Joe Schmo's data versus
that would be a custom controller?
just a session, just the ID of that one individual?
I'm not understanding. It sounds custom controller to me, but I'm...
Right. I'm looking to pass a variable, basically, to the PDF generation. It somehow is grabbing, obviously, Joe Schmo's ID and generating Joe Schmo's info, but I want to pass a list of other IDs to that. Where would I find how, Visualforce takes variables?
I would say you will certainly extend your controller with an extension.
Yes.
And in that extension, you will do all your business logic. So I think that goes with the same question, which is remember, just Visualforce authorizes you to display information. You want to customize that information before, generate that on the fly. So this is the controller. Apex is going to perform that. Okay? Another one option could be maybe through the URL with some extra parameters.
Yeah.
Like a question mark, ID, or parameter 1 is equal to this, this, and this, and this. So that could be also embedded into a custom button or a custom link. Multiple options.
Okay, we got...
Hi.
One more.
Hi. Does the inline editor have versioning, or is there a way to back up what you've done, or at least take snapshots?
The Visualforce pages are versioned. There are versions. Whenever you're creating them, it's on the latest version. You can go, and I'll come over and show you afterward where you can see the versioning number. When you create them, it's always defaulted to the latest version. If for some reason you want to go back and create an older version, I think you can, but I don't know why you would want to. You'll show them there.
I would say that if you go into Setup, Develop, Pages, you can have access to the page themselves, and they have a versioning tab.
All right, before I'm gonna come and talk to you, I just want to thank you guys for coming out and hanging with us on a Friday afternoon. Give it up for yourselves for being here, for creating your first Visualforce pages. Thank you guys so much. If you're traveling, please travel safe, and thank you for coming to Dreamforce.
And just a reminder, Sharif is in the back raising his hand right now if you guys have any more questions about certification and training. So feel free to talk to him.
All right, you guys, travel safe. Thank you.
Thank you.